File 7 of a Treatise of Human Nature, by David Hume, Volume 1. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by George Yeager. Book 1, Part 1, Section 5, of Relations. The word relation is commonly used in two senses considerably different from each other. Either for that quality by which two ideas are connected together in the imagination, and the one naturally introduces the other after the manner above explained, or for that particular circumstance in which even upon the arbitrary union of two ideas in the fancy, we may think proper to compare them. In common language, the former is always the sense in which we use the word relation, and it is only in philosophy that we extend it to mean any particular subject of comparison without a connecting principle. Thus distance will be allowed by philosophers to be a true relation, because we acquire an idea of it by the comparing of objects. But in a common way we say, that nothing can be more distant than such or such things from each other, nothing can have less relation, as if distance and relation were incompatible. It may perhaps be esteemed an endless task to enumerate all those qualities which make objects admit of comparison, and by which the ideas of philosophical relation are produced. But if we diligently consider them, we shall find that without difficulty they may be comprised under 7 general heads, which may be considered as the sources of all philosophical relation. 1. The first is resemblance, and this is a relation without which no philosophical relation can exist, since no objects will admit of comparison but what have some degree of resemblance. But though resemblance be necessary to all philosophical relation, it does not follow that it always produces a connection or association of ideas. When a quality becomes very general, and is common to a great many individuals, it leads not the mind directly to any one of them, but by presenting at once too great a choice, does thereby prevent the imagination from fixing on any single object. 2. Identity may be esteemed a second species of relation. This relation I here consider as applied in its strictest sense to constant and unchangeable objects, without examining the nature and foundation of personal identity, which shall find its place afterwards. Of all relations, the most universal is that of identity, being common to every being whose existence has any duration. 3. After identity, the most universal and comprehensive relations are those of space and time, which are the sources of an infinite number of comparisons, such as distant, contiguous, above, below, before, after, etc. 4. All those objects which admit of quantity or number may be compared in that particular, which is another very fertile source of relation. 5. When any two objects possess the same quality in common, the degrees in which they possess it form a 5th species of relation. Thus, of two objects which are both heavy, the one may be either of greater or less weight than the other. Two colors that are of the same kind may yet be of different shades, and in that respect admit of comparison. 6. The relation of contrariety may at first sight be regarded as an exception to the rule, that no relation of any kind can subsist without some degree of resemblance. But let us consider, that no two ideas are in themselves contrary, except those of existence and non-existence, which are plainly resembling, as implying both of them an idea of the object, though the latter excludes the object from all times and places in which it is supposed not to exist. 7. All other objects, such as fire and water, heat and cold, are only found to be contrary from experience, and from the contrariety of their causes or effects, which relation of cause and effect is a seventh philosophical relation as well as a natural one. The resemblance implied in this relation shall be explained afterwards. It might naturally be expected that I should join difference to the other relations, but that I consider rather as a negation of relation than as anything real or positive. Difference is of two kinds as opposed either to identity or resemblance. The first is called a difference of number, the other of kind. End of File 7. File 8 of A Treatise of Human Nature by David Hume, Volume 1. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by George Yeager. Volume 1, Book 1, Part 1, Section 6, of Modes and Substances. I would fain ask those philosophers who found so much of their reasonings on the distinction of substance and accident, and imagine we have clear ideas of each, whether the idea of substance be derived from the impressions of sensation or of reflection. If it be conveyed to us by our senses, I ask which of them, and after what manner? If it be perceived by the eyes, it must be a colour; if by the ears, a sound; if by the palate, a taste; and so of the other senses. But I believe none will assert, that substance is either a colour, or sound, or a taste. The idea of substance must therefore be derived from an impression or reflection, if it really exist. But the impressions of reflection resolve themselves into our passions and emotions, none of which can possibly represent a substance. We have, therefore, no idea of substance distinct from that of a collection of particular qualities, nor have we any other meaning when we either talk of or reason concerning it. The idea of a substance, as well as that of a mode, is nothing but a collection of simple ideas that are united by the imagination, and have a particular name assigned them, by which we are able to recall either to ourselves or others that collection. But the difference betwixt these ideas consists in this, that the particular qualities, which form a substance, are commonly referred to an unknown something, in which they are supposed to inhere, or, granting this fiction should not take place, are at least supposed to be closely and inseparably connected by the relations of contiguity and causation. The effect of this is, that whatever new simple quality we discover to have the same connection with the rest, we immediately comprehend it among them, even though it did not enter into the first conception of the substance. Thus our idea of gold may at first be a yellow colour, weight, malleableness, fusibility; but upon the discovery of its dissolubility in aqua regia, we join that to the other qualities, and suppose it to belong to the substance, as much as if its idea had from the beginning made a part of the compound one. The principle of union being regarded as the chief part of the complex idea, gives entrance to whatever quality afterwards occurs, and is equally comprehended by it, as are the others which first presented themselves. That this cannot take place in modes is evident from considering their nature. The simple ideas of which modes are formed either represent qualities, which are not united by contiguity and causation, but are dispersed in different subjects; or if they be all united together, the uniting principle is not regarded as the foundation of the complex idea. The idea of a dance is an instance of the first kind of modes; that of beauty of the second. The reason is obvious why such complex ideas cannot receive any new idea without changing the name, which distinguishes the mode. End of File 8.